So are you feeling navigated? Yeah, not seasick? That was good. No, it's always a tough session, and you know, Jean-Francois, he's such a mild guy, you know, he could keep us all going in that post-lunch session. It was very interesting how we started off this morning with this thought that what's really missing is innovation, new models, entrepreneurship, path-breaking ways to go to different customer segments, that this is all somehow missing. I'm pleased to inform you that for a certain segment of both INSEAD and the broader INSEAD community, that's not at all true. And to lead us both in a discovery of what is happening within large organizations, the degrees of innovation that are happening within organizations, and the power of entrepreneurship that seems to be driving change, I want to introduce the moderator of our final panel, my colleague and friend Manuel Sosa, who is going to take us through this final panel for today. Manuel, over to you.
Thank you. So, well, thank you again for being here. Thank you for the invite. It's been tremendously powerful and inspiring being with you today. And I was telling some of the people that are going to be here today that it's fantastic to be here because it feels like we're all part of the same family. We're the INSEAD family. And being back again and bringing some sort of the classroom spirit is great. And talking about classroom spirit, let me define what innovation and entrepreneurship is, just to make sure that we are clear on what we're going to be talking for the next 80, 90 minutes. Innovation is the phenomena to create something that is not only novel, but also useful. And so innovating is about creating that thing that is novel and useful. And by thing, I mean technologies, products, services, experiences, business models. Now, creating that is not enough. I mean, if we really want the whole world to enjoy those innovations, we need to create the infrastructure to do that, and that's part of what entrepreneurship is. Entrepreneurship is actually the art of creating a venture, a business venture, to enable us to capture the value behind an innovation. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. And so what I would like to do for the next 10 minutes or so is to set up the stage to have a discussion. I think the really interesting part is coming from the examples by which some of you from your community, INSEAD alumni, are doing. So we're going to have 3 stories from your entrepreneurs and 3 panelists to talk about their experience innovating. And then what we're going to do is then have a discussion about the challenges and opportunities of innovating in Asia or somewhere else in the world, but then see what we can learn from that. And let me start with one of my favorite products from the 90s. I actually have that one here. I mean, it's this in the 90s. This was a symbol of innovation. I mean, we're in Japan. We are like in the place where a lot of this was happening. And the Walkman. Who didn't have a Walkman in the 90s? Nobody. I mean, it's almost nobody. And so now what is interesting is Sony was the undisputable leader on this. And here's the interesting part. They created more than 500 variants of Walkmans. And this is one of them. This and that ones were probably my favorites. Only with 3 platforms, basically with 3 templates, they managed to create more than 500 models, very different models. Some of them would emphasize miniaturization, which was quite critical here in Japan. Some others would emphasize audio fidelity, audio quality, which was really critical in Europe. And some others were emphasizing more lifestyle, which was quite critical in US. 3 different platforms enabling all that product variety. So it's not just product innovation what was driving this. There was a lot of process innovation. Now, if we think about process innovation, I mean, this guy is probably one of the ones that really made this possible. I mean, one of the reasons Toyota became the, again, undisputable leader in the auto industry, transformed the auto industry, taught to a large extent how the big 3 should actually make cars that don't break, was actually starting here. And the lessons from that actually went beyond the auto industry. It went to the service industry and so on. And again, tremendous innovation that started in Japan and conquered the world. And now I wanted to bring something a little bit more recent and coming from retail. And sometimes we think about fast fashion and we think about Zara and H&M. Well, I mean, in Japan, you also have that sort of fast fashion type of retailing. Now, what I think is interesting there is, sure, they are highly integrated. When you look at the back office of them, is tremendously innovative. They are also innovating in creating their own technology, their own products that give them a different edge. So you go there and you find very innovative products that you cannot find somewhere else. And it has to do a lot with miniaturization and protecting from extreme heat cold conditions. So there's something common about this. Japan, innovation in very different flavors. And they are really grown-up, scale-up companies. And these are an example of what I call innovation in the large. And they all enjoy the benefit of having resources to actually protect and scale up their innovation. They not only invented something, they really managed to scale it up and use their resources to scale it up and protect it. Now the question is, can they really innovate to the point that they can actually threat their core business? And I think that's, you can imagine how hard for a very established company is doing that. And that's where these guys come into play. The entrepreneurs, the startups, the ones that don't have, that actually miss all the resources and processes and efficiencies that the large companies have. And again, in Japan, there are many of them. Actually, we're going to hear from one of the top startups in terms of financing that is coming up in Japan from Origami. And there is a lot of sort of entrepreneurs trying to sort of challenge the status quo of the big companies. And one of the biggest challenges of innovating in the small, which is what the entrepreneurs are actually doing, is survival. At the very beginning, it's really about survival. I mean, they do have the ability to create something, they have the agility, they have the adaptability, and to really create novel ways to satisfy the emerging needs that are out there, but can they survive? Because survival is very hard because they don't have enough resources. And they're actually starving for resources, which is something that the big corporations actually have a lot. But they do have the agility and the adaptability and creativity to do this. And there are many companies in Asia that have managed to survive. And here are some examples. In WeChat, it's even better than WhatsApp and so on. And it's even bigger than many of those. Xiaomi is really challenging the big corporations out there on how to produce mobile phones. And I wanted to bring this one, and because Todo is one of those very successful startups that managed to survive, and that brings another element that is common to part of the conversation here, which is INSEAD alumni. Todo is a very successful startup in China, launched by one of you, by Gary Wan, who graduated in 2002. And so he did survive. The company survived. Actually, they sell it for a big amount, and then they started a startup. So he's back into the survival mode. This is a startup also in Asia, in China, that is trying to challenge the big studios. I mean, this is the #1 animation studio in China that is trying to produce high-quality movies, Pixar, DreamWorks level quality, at 1/10 of a cost. And that's really the challenge. Can they do that? Well, what I wanted to do to illustrate this is just to give you a little bit of a clip of the trailer that they have produced so that you see whether the quality is good or not. They are actually going to launch their first movie in January. And Gary Wan is not only an entrepreneur and a creative, but also a great alumni. I mean, he's supporting a lot of the efforts that we've been doing at INSEAD to bring creativity to the core of what we teach and innovation to the core of what we teach. So their movie is about two gods that are unemployed, and they sort of like, they come to this world to create some trouble so that they can, the demand for their jobs is actually increasing. Well, let's take a quick look at this.
早间播报，人间近年对神界的封闭所造成的神界经济危机没有改善的迹象。
当前职位门神，当前职位继续存在的可能性。基地。玉磊，我们要干不下去了，不过应该会安排个新的。那还有什么别的职位？还有什么别的？
妈妈，门神是干什么的？门神是保护家的，过年贴幅门神的年画，家家户户都平安呢。
欢迎光临，欢迎光临。
门神这么厉害呀！
I wish we could have the time to. All I wanted to give you is just a snapshot of the quality of that movie. And I'm not the only one saying that. When they have shown this in some close previews, the reviews in terms of quality, in terms of the graphics, in terms of the story, in terms of the audio, has been amazing. And they have done this with 1/10 of the cost of a comparable movie. And I think that's part of the issue. And these are actually some pictures that I've taken in their studio in Beijing there. And they have managed to put together a fantastic team. And again, it sort of illustrates that challenge of creating something that is going to change at least a big industry, or it's going to challenge a big industry, it's going to change the world to some extent, done by one of you. And so what I would like to do now is to invite, we're going to have 3 stories from young entrepreneurs and then 3 stories from panelists. And that's going to give us sort of the concrete example to open up a discussion about innovating in Asia, innovating in the large, innovating in the small. What's particularly interesting about innovating in Asia? And then we can take it to a higher level. I said, well, I mean, what can the rest of the world learn from the efforts that have been done here to innovate in Asia? And what can the innovators in Asia learn from the rest of the world? We're going to have examples that are going to help us to discuss that. And that's why I would like to invite Aiko and Kazoo and Max. And they're going to share a 5-minute story on this. So Aiko, please